So sovereign money starts to fix the fundamental problem exhibited in this diagram where the government sits under the banks. Didn't you think your government was in charge? Well, as long as it can't issue its own money and has to be in debt to banks, it's not. And sovereign money is the answer to this issue. It would basically increase the ratio of M0, or base currency, to all the credit money provided by banks. M1, 2, and 3, plus all the off-balance sheet fraud we see today. Not only does it increase the ratio, but it fixes the fact that we really have no base currency because all we have is issued by a private banking cartel rather than our own government. So, this is the first and most important agenda item. And now, a lot of the people who are aware of the energy and environmental problems we face might be thinking that resetting the system with sovereign money would just kick off more exponential growth. But remember, the absurd levels of growth, scale, and velocity we see in the system come from the vortex fueled by debt-based money. The sovereign money and lower leverage would slow the system down and reduce the scale. But it would do so in the interests of the people rather than the banks. And the Fed would have to be nationalized, and we would need to build the right structure to control the quantity of sovereign money, not just the quantity going in, but also the quantity being sucked out, which means usury laws would be needed to keep the banks from jacking up interest rates to the triple digits to vacuum up the sovereign money. The state banking system should take over the regional Fed functions. Banks would need to be put through standard bankruptcy procedures in court to mark the debt down in an orderly way that serves the people, and derivatives would need to be worked down, and financiers forced to take a loss. And of course, the too big to fail must be broken up. This imperial cartel is the problem. But now the U.S. government has been doing the exact opposite of all these things for a long time, especially since the crash of 2008, because it's implementing the bankers' plans. Remember, every key federal official is in the CFR, the banker club. So this plan isn't possible yet, but as JFK said, rather than sitting back and letting Wall Street, Washington, D.C. do whatever they want for us, or to us, to be more accurate, we got to be proactive and take action. So looking at this imperial power system, what can we do? Well, I've already discussed how sovereign money would break the vortex that built this structure, but since the feds are doing nothing about it yet, what else can we do? Well, just keep working our way down the pyramid. Pull our money from Wall Street. Use credit unions. Use anything except the big banks like JP Morgan Chase. Don't fall for their freebies. And we need to stop serving the corporate system, both on the supply side in terms of working for it and on the demand side by buying everything from it. And I know this is tough. We all think we're hostage to it, and to some degree we are, but by continuing to play along, we're only guaranteeing the death of the Republic and the rise of the global empire discussed in Lesson 5. Now, I'll talk about the key to enable us to walk away from it after I mention this. The television. Turn it off. This is so important. Everything we know about the world is fed to us through this fake electronic matrix controlled by a few corporations, which are in turn controlled by the money powers. Now, to replace this pyramid, we need to build the community that'll replace the system by leveraging the power of a republic by working at a lower level. Remember the states that were in the pyramid back in Lesson 1? Well, they still exist. And so do the counties, the towns, and the potential for local community. So this is the key. We must make these levels of society function by participating in them directly. Make them do their jobs. A republic depends on bottom-up participation. So rather than racing around the corporate empire, we must get involved with our state legislatures. There are some state officials that want to reassert state power, but if we aren't talking to them and pushing specific actions through them, they're stuck only hearing from the bank lobbyists. And they know that they don't have you at their back. We need to push them to spend money into the system as an asset rather than submitting to Wall Street tyranny and being forced to borrow. They can't borrow anymore. They're bankrupt because of this system. But look into the Minnesota Transportation Act to see how people are pushing one state to recover its sovereignty, and push them to look at the state chartered banking system in North Dakota as a way to recover some autonomy from Wall Street. Join a transition town or start your own. Run for office. Get involved at the precinct level so the parties have bottom-up forces rather than purely top-down money powers driving them from Wall Street. And reconnect with your local communities and neighborhoods. Start talking about how to work together to develop independence from the corporate system. And we can go further down the pyramid below the corporate powers to academia, government, and the military and law enforcement, which have all been co-opted by this system. We have to recognize how we've been programmed by this system through our lives, by the imperial education system and the media. And academic professionals, you need to pursue truth and recognize how the pyramid controls your profession. Also, homeschool the kids or community school them. Letting the state raise kids is one of the keys to how this pyramid got built in the first place. When it comes to government, don't vote or otherwise participate in the national level elections if your only option is one of the corporate candidates. By participating, you're giving legitimacy to utter illegitimacy. Instead, spend all your political energies at the level of the republic, states, counties, and towns, and again, turn off the TV. It sucks us into the national election like the Super Bowl. And that's why we're so consumed with presidential elections but don't care about lower level elections. And for the government officials, learn about this pyramid. Stop serving it. Stop being so willing to robotically do what you're told. Think for yourself and serve the country rather than banks. And same goes for my old military colleagues and law enforcement. You're serving Wall Street and the corporate system. Read what James Madison said about standing armies. Read what General Smedley Butler said. Listen to Dwight Eisenhower's warnings. Stand down. And everyone else, again, turn off the TV. It hides the fact that the military is basically working for Wall Street. Now, none of this might sound like the big secret answer to solving our problems, but that's because there is no easy answer. Stopping empires is extremely hard work, and the power of the one we're in today is like none other in history. It keeps us, all of us, caught way down here at the bottom, dominated by very powerful forces. And this is why we aren't already doing the things listed on the previous slides. We feel like we're being held hostage. We've discussed how the monetary system distorts economics to hold us hostage. In fact, this academic field is now just pure groupthink for the banks to hide the truth of the monetary system. But the empire deeply influences other critical aspects of our lives as well, like psychology. Lesson 4 discussed how it affects our own psychology since we're, for the most part, mindlessly spinning parts inside the system. But it also dominates the academic field itself. It stuffs it into the box of the financial and corporate system. And people that don't conform to the pyramid are called abnormal or sent for therapy or given medications. Out-of-the-box thinking, or more accurately, out-of-the-pyramid thinking, is squeezed out of the profession. And the same thing happens with spirituality. And I'm not just talking about religion here, but the far broader sense of how we all find meaning in life. Lesson 4 discussed how the scale of the money system has squeezed out most meaning since everything is monetized. The primary meaning of our lives is just to play our small part in the mega machine. And the remaining pockets of spirituality are sucked into the vortex. For example, Western religions, they don't speak about usury anymore. The very foundation of the vortex in our society. And a lot of them tend to fuel the vortex further in order to sort of fit in and be accepted by encouraging material pursuits and monetary abundance. So spirituality is very much in the box as well. And all of these feed on each other. And they do so in ways with cycles of negative energy or positive energy. And I think it's pretty clear that the current system is a cycle of negative energy. Now, what about philosophy? Well, it doesn't really exist in this pyramid. Philosophy is free thinking, and by definition, that's out-of-the-box thinking. And there's no room for that given the scale of the pyramid we're in and the scarcity of money that forces us to devote our lives to mindlessly pursuing credit and watching TV rather than thinking. So the pyramid is about conformity and subjugating humans to its boundaries. That's the opposite of philosophy. It's system management. And I briefly mentioned this before. Remember the disturbed mind of the certain type of Harvard Business School financier? We're caught in a dehumanizing system that churns us as numbers, which is preventing the necessary awakening from happening so that the vortex could be opposed. It's preventing the next enlightenment by diminishing human freedom and awareness. And besides the monetary system itself, the primary mechanism in the U.S. for the financial powers in this pyramid to prevent that enlightenment is the CFR. As mentioned in Lesson 3, it's the group of system management Ivy Leaguers and ruthless overachievers centered around the financiers at the top of the pyramid, and they dominate all these professions. They control all power centers in society. Almost every important person in these fields is in this group. I know some of them. I worked with them. I went to school with them. The group is very real. And what Wendell Berry says about these types of people here is true. Just like what he said in the last video about their pathology was true. They prefer big systems, not local community and local people. They're generally narcissists, so they're the last people we would want running our lives. And this needs to stop. We must move beyond narcissism and the pathology of system management to start doing the types of things we've been talking about in this video. So to unleash Enlightenment forces and renew humanity by allowing spirituality, psychology, and economics some freedom to bubble up and escape the pyramid, a new council that stands for philosophical openness is necessary. And that's the Council on Spiritual, Psychological, and Economic Renewal. It's the group driven by us, by bottom-up forces looking toward the brighter future of Renaissance 2.0, rather than the top-down forces in the CFR taking us in a dark direction. Which do you prefer? I hope you join us on the brighter path.